Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to our Shirin Svasemes Parsha Shemos Tavshin Peivav. We find that the Svasemes many times throughout his Mamorim on Golos Mitzrayim, Geulas Mitzrayim, and Shemos Rabbi. In his Mamorim on Pesach, we find that he often brings down a vart from his grandfather, the Heilige Chedushirim Schus Yagan Aleinu, to help us understand what Golos Mitzrayim was and what ultimately led to the Geula. And the Svasemes focuses on the words of Etzeisi Eschem Etachas Sivlois Mitzrayim. The word Sivlois can mean the backbreaking labor, the servitude that the Mitzrayim put us in, but the word Sivlois can also mean from the ability to be able to be Sevel, the ability to be able to handle something. And the Svasemes tells us in the name of his grandfather that Klal Yisrael, as long as they were able to handle the Golos of Mitzrayim, as long as they were comfortable there and they were okay there, and they weren't itching to get out, they weren't looking to get out, they weren't crying out to the Rabbanu Shalom that we need to get out of the place that we're in, as long as they were still able to be Sevel Mitzrayim, they weren't able to get out. It was only when by Yamas Melech Mitzrayim, by Nochu B'nai Yisrael, it was only when the Melech Mitzrayim died and Klal Yisrael gave a krach. Klal Yisrael cried out to Rabban Hashem, said, Rabban Hashem ad kan, Rabban Hashem ad masay, how long are we going to be in Mitzrayim? And they said, we can't handle the challenges anymore. Not in Ruchnius and not in Gashmius. That was the moment when things shifted, and that was the moment when Klal Yisrael went from being in Mitzrayim to getting out my tachas sivlas Mitzrayim. And this is a vart that the Chedushirim said over, and the Svasemes brings this down in multiple places. For example, in Pesach, he writes that the reason why we need to eat mur on the night of Pesach is not just to remember the challenges that Klal Yisrael went through, but to remember that it was the bitterness and the taste of bitterness and the feeling that this is horrible and we can't handle this anymore that ultimately led us to be able to get out of Mitzrayim. And we have to recognize in our own gullus as well that it's only those moments when we say, Rabban Hashem, we can't handle it. We can't handle him being a gullus for another moment. We can't handle not having the Beis Hamikdash. We can't handle not being able to bring karbanis, not having Ashras Hashchina, having the Sar Shebeisa and the Shivad Malchus get in the way of us fulfilling your Ratzon. Only once we're able to taste the bitterness and say, Rabban Hashem, it's bitter. Being in Golos is bitter. It's dark. It's something that we want to get out of. Only once we say, Rabban Hashem, we can't be Sevel Golos anymore. Only then that becomes the moment that we're then able to get out of Mitzrayim. But in the year Tafresh Nun Vav, the Svasemes takes it one step further to help us understand that these feelings that a person needs to feel, the feelings of bitterness and the inability to feel those are not just things which happen in Mitzrayim and not just things which are happening globally. And to Klal Yisrael as a whole, as we go through this Golos and move from the stage of Golos to Mitzvah Shem very soon, the state of Geula. But the Svasemes is going to explain it that although it takes place on a national scale to all of Klal Yisrael, it also can take place within each and every person. And the Svasemes focuses on a Tafresh Nun Vav, what we say every day in davening in Emes V'Yatziv. After Shema and Emes V'Yatziv, we say, Moitzi Asirim. The Moshem goes in and takes out prisoners. Upaida Anavim. He goes in and redeems those that are humble. Va'izur Dalam. And he helps those that are poor. Says this Svasemes, what are these three things? Moitzi Asirim, Paida Anavim, Va'izur Dalam. What's the difference between a person who's an Asir, somebody who's tied up, somebody who's an Anav, somebody who's a Dalam? What are these three Madregas? Says the Heilige Svasemes in Tafresh Nun Vav that these three Madregas reference three levels of people, the way they're experiencing Golos. The first level, the highest level, is Paida Anavim, which obviously it's not an order, as we'll see soon. It's not an order. It begins at Moitzi Asirim, then to Paida Anavim, and then to Ezer Dalam. But Paida Anavim, says this Vasemis, is the highest level. Paida Anavim is the tzaddikim. They're called Anavim. They're humble. The people that are tzaddikim. Shemei atzmam eina b'golos rak ba'avura klal. They themselves, they're not really in Golos. They're only in Golos for the klal. They're only in Golos in order to give the koyach and the strength to Klal Yisrael to be able to survive in Golos, to be able to get out of Golos. And the suffering that these tzaddikim are experiencing is not because of them. As it says about Moshe Rabbeinu, that the moment that he was born, the whole house was filled with light. Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama came down to this world in order to go ahead and help Klal Yisrael get out of Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael get to Matan Torah, but not for him himself. Paida Anavim, says this Vasemis, is a reference to the Anavim. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu being the ultimate Anav, Adam Bikal Adam, but it's all of the tzaddikim that are connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, all the tzaddikim that are living in Golos, and they themselves are not in Golos. Although physically their body may be in Golos, their neshama is not in Golos. The neshama is not suffering the suffering of the rest of Klal Yisrael on their own behalf, rather on behalf of the rest of Klal Yisrael. They're going ahead and suffering, Ima Noichi B'Tzara, feeling the pain of Klal Yisrael and helping Klal Yisrael climb out of the tsar that they're in. That is Paida Anavim. The Rebbe redeems those that are Anavim, those that are humble, a reference to the tzaddikim. Moitzi Asirim, says this Vasemes, is the average person who's in Golos, the Beinanim. He's in Golos and he recognizes, I'm in Golos, and it's challenging him in Golos, and he says, I feel locked up, I feel tied up in a ruchnius way, in a gashmius way, financially, emotionally, but I feel tied up. I feel like I'm not capable of going ahead and utilizing my full potential in ruchnius or gashmius because of the fact that I'm stuck in a very, very small, confined, ruchnius, gashmius space, and it doesn't allow me to be the person that I want to be. Moitzi Asirim is a reference to those that are Beinanim, those that realize they're in Gullus and desire to be able to get out. They desire to be able to move out of Gullus. Says this Vasem is Oizer Dalim. What does Oizer Dalim mean? He helps those that are poor. It means those that are so poor they don't even realize that they're in Gullus itself. As Chazal say, Ein ani ela badas. The ultimate poor person is not one who's lacking financial resources, but one who's lacking das, who's lacking knowledge. Says this Vasemis, Oizer Dalim means the Rabban Shem helps those that don't even realize they're in Gullus, to recognize they're in Gullus, in order to rise up to the Madrega of the Moitzi Asirim, and ultimately to be able to get to Paida Anavim, to be able to get out of Gullus itself. And these are the three Madregas that take place within Gullus. The first Madrega being the Tzaddikim. The Tzaddikim are really not even Gullus, already escaped Gullus, are really above Gullus. Nevertheless, they're there in order to help Klal Yisrael get out. Those that are in Gullus and recognize they're in Gullus, the Moitzi Asirim. And finally, the Oizer Dalim, those that are so stuck in Gullus, they start to become comfortable and they start to give up and ever thinking that it's possible to get out of Gullus. That is the Oizer Dalim. And each one of these three Madregas need help. Moitzi Asirim, Poida Novim, but Oizer Dalim need help to get out of their state of Gullus to be able to get into it. The Sfasemis in other places says that this is why we find four Lashonis of Geula. V'tzeisi, v'tzalti, v'lakach, v'tzeisi, each one of these three, the first three madregas of Etzeisi, which is Metachas Sivlos Mitzrayim, Vetzalti, V'ga'alti, each one of them reference another one of these three madregas, ultimately leading to Velakachti, which is the fourth stage, the stage where we're able to be brought to the Rabban Shem. And each one of these three stages take place, as we said, on a global scale to all of Klal Yisrael, the three parts of Klal Yisrael, the Tzaddikim, the Beinanim, and the Rishon. The Tzaddikim is a reference to the Paida Anovim. The Beinanim is the Moitzi Asirim, those that realize they're in Gullus and want to get out. And finally, the Rishon, but doesn't just mean the wicked people, the people that are so stuck in Gullus. That is the Oizer Dalim, and the Rabban Shem helps each one of these things. And then this Vasamis ends off with an unbelievable short paragraph. The same way that took place in Mitzrayim, it takes place in every Gullus. Says this Vasamis even more than that. Prat uprat nimtza kol eila madreges. In every prat, which means in every single human, in every single yid that's living through the stages of Gullus, and every Gullus that we've been through, you can also find all of these three things. Every person has three aspects to him. Every person has all three parts, the Oizer Dalim, the Moitzi Asirim, the Paida Anavim. Every person has these three parts. There are parts of our Avodas Hashem that we feel like we're a Ben Chayrin. We're the Paida Anavim. We're really not in Gullus. Those are parts of ourselves that we've already gone ahead and experienced what the Baal Shem Tov calls a Geula Prati. We've experienced our own personal salvation, and in that area, we don't feel stuck at all. We feel like if we're already going ahead and we're actualizing our potential or maximizing our potential, that's the area in which we feel like we're a tzaddik. For some people, it may be Shabbos, it may be davening, maybe Shmir Sinayim, it may be learning. There's areas in our life where we feel like we're not stuck in Gullus, like we're not stuck, we're thriving, we're going ahead and doing everything we could do in that area. That is the level of Paida Anavim. The second is, says this Vasemis, there are parts that we feel like we need a tremendous amount of help in. Parts that we feel we're stuck in, but we recognize we're stuck in. We recognize the flaws and the challenges that are there, and therefore we beg the Rabban Hashem to get us out, Moitzi Asirim, get us out of the place that we're in. And finally, says this Vasemis, there are parts of us that we've given up on. Parts of us that we don't even think were possible and are capable of ever fixing and ever changing. And we start to say, this is our reality, this is where we are, and there's nothing that's going to change. We become so capable of being civil, of going ahead and accepting and being able to take and to deal with the challenge that's there that we don't even cry out to the Rabban Hashem to get out. Every one of us says this. Vasemis says all three madregas. The madrega of a tzaddik, a rasha, and a beinani. All of these dwell and all of these reside inside of every single yid. Moitzi Asirim, Paida Anavim, Va'oizer Dalim. All of them are within every yid. And the Vasemis says the goal is that the same way the Paida Anavim, the same way that tzaddikim like Moshe Rabbeinu, the ones that are out of Gullus, go ahead and are there in order to pull the other parts out of Gullus, to pull the rest of Klal Yisrael out of Gullus. Says this Vasemis, we need to do the same thing. That the parts in us, the chelik of the cheres that's in every yid, it's the chelik that's Messiah Adam. It's the chelik that goes in and helps a person and is the achana for the geula. Which means, look at the parts of us that we're maximizing. Look at the parts of us that are doing well and allow those to be able to be the ones that are helping the parts of us that are still stuck. The Moitzi Asirim, and ultimately shining the light even on those Oizer Dalim, even on those parts of us that we don't even think is possible. Allow our successes, allow our victories to to be able to go ahead and to be able to give us more victories, to give us the strength to know that we're capable of more, to give us the strength of knowing that those areas in our life which we've given up on, the Sfas Emes is saying that the Poida Anavim inside of us, the Tzaddikim, the Moshe Rabbeinu that resides inside of us, gives us the strength to pull the other parts out, gives us the strength to be able to be Moitzi Asirim and Oizer Dalim. And all three of these come together to ultimately lead to the final stage of Lakachti Eschem Li La'am Vayisim Lachem Lelikim. The Rabban Shalom will be for us the Rabban Shalom. This is our Ikar Avodah, the three stages of our Geula as a whole, as a nation, Klal Yisrael, and the three stages of the Geula Prati of every Yid, recognizing there's three stages. The first stage is when I'm so stuck, I don't even think I can get out. The second stage is that I want to get, I'm crying to get out. And the third stage is once I've already been out, and therefore I turn around and utilize the successes to be able to help the other parts that are still stuck in Gullus and say, I'm here with you, but I've already been successful. I'm already partially have climbed out of Gullus, and therefore I can utilize the success to pull the other parts out. Hashem should help. We should be zeiche to have all four Lashanis Geula, to have all three parts of ourselves get to the place of Lakachti, to have every Yid in Klal Yisrael, that Tzaddik, the Beni, and the Rasha get to the Geula, and the Mitzvah Hashem, by every Yid recognizing and actualizing his Geula Prati, Mitzvah Hashem will be zeiche to the Geula HaKlali. Have a great Shabbos.